Hiya Popverse, welcome to day 2 of C2E2 2026. I am here with Mr. MICHAEL WALSH, and we're going to talk about some horror comics. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready. I'm always ready.
Amazing. Michael, your horror work is just, it's incredible. Obviously, we're going to talk about your big comic that's out right now, Exquisite Corpses, but first, I was such a huge fan of Silver Coin. I love the horror anthology format, and you found such an interesting way to do it. I know you've got so much other stuff going on right now, but are you working on any Silver Coin stuff in the background, maybe?
I am.
Great.
I have been slowly working up the next arc of Silver Coin, the next volume, with 5 incredible writers, which I can't spoil, although one of them is myself, as usual, because I write every 5th issue. But yeah, we're going to be getting back to it. I've got 2 issues drawn, and I've got all 5 scripts for the 4th volume. And we're going to be jumping around in time and doing some things in a bit more of an experimental way in terms of the art and writing and the structure. So I'm pretty excited for people to read it and for fans of Silver Coin to have it back in their hands.
Has that kind of become a sort of goal with Silver Coin? Because I remember in the first issues you did stuff like in the 70s, you kind of went even further back in time, and then you did that weird cyberpunk issue that was so like creepy and techno savvy and stuff. Is how much of Silver Coin is a time travel thing for you?
I think a big part of it is just telling stories that I haven't really been able to tell yet in my career. And I always wanted to draw a cyberpunk thing. So when Jeff Lemire had said to me, I'd love to do something in the future, I was very keen on that. And so in the new arc, I have never drawn a space horror. Alien is one of my favorite movies, so I decided to set one of the issues even farther past in the future from the cyberpunk issue that I did with Jeff. But it's just more about, it's a real passion project, a real labor of love. And so when I'm drawing it, I want to be drawing the things that I'm really excited about in the moment. And sometimes that's telling a cowboy story. Sometimes that's telling a story about witches in the 1700s. And sometimes that's jumping ahead to the year 4000 and showing what humanity in space looks like when they still have the coin.
Excellent. Okay, well, one quick question on Silver Coin, then we'll move away. So we still don't quite know what the coin is. I mean, like we see what it does. It's deeply demonic. Will that ever be answered, do you think?
Kind of. I want to be a little bit ambiguous because I do feel that if you give people too many answers in horror, then I think for me, a lot of the success of horror comes from the imagination of the reader, and the things that you can't see, the things that you can't understand, those are oftentimes the things that are the most terrifying. So I don't really want to answer every question. I want to give some ambiguous threads and let readers kind of define what they think they mean.
Yeah, okay, excellent. All right, I cannot wait for whenever those issues come out. Okay. Let's talk about Exquisite Corpses. So obviously it is this blockbuster comic book, but you are also coming out with a card game based around the story that you've developed. At what point, while you were creating Exquisite Corpses with James, did the idea for the card game come about?
Almost immediately.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because on our very first call about the project, James had texted me and said, would you like to jump on Zoom? I have an idea for a book that we could do together, and I'd love to talk to you about it. So we jumped on a Zoom call. He said, okay, I'm thinking serial killer battle royale. And that was the kernel of what became Exquisite Corpses. But we ended up talking about it for over an hour that day. And the way that me and James work and the way that we communicate when we're talking story and characters, it's very electric and it's very propulsive. And so I'll have an idea and then he'll roll off that, and then he'll have an idea, then I'll roll off that. And it's very fast moving, and there are a lot of ideas thrown at the wall. And in that very first conversation, I'd said, this would make a great video game. This would make a great RPG. This would be a great, card game, multiplayer card game, a social party game. And that idea came so quickly, but the actual making of the thing was almost ethereal until we did our first writing summit for Exquisite Corpses, and I was driving there to Buffalo, which is about an hour to hour and a half drive to meet James. And as I was in the car, it was all rolling around in my head how the game would work and how to actually manifest it onto the cards and what the table would look like and the board and how the cards would work. And I had brought all of these white erase board markers. And as we were taking our lunch break, I just drew down on the cards what I thought the game would look like and how it could work. And I explained to the whole Tiny Onion crew my plan for it. And at that point, it almost wasn't sure that it was a thing that could be made yet, if it was going to work or not. And we played it, and then we played it again, and then we played it again. And after playing it 4 times in a row, I think everybody realized, like, oh, this is a real thing. It's almost already fully formed, and it is a blast to play with your friends. We have to actually make this.
Yeah.
So the idea came fast. The making of it was a lot slower. I think we were a long time in development on Exquisite Corpses because me and James were both pretty busy after we had, agreed to do it together. So we had about a year before we could even begin working on it proper. So there was so much gestation of ideas in that time. So I think the game was kind of slowly building itself in my subconscious. And then once we got it down onto the cardboard, it was all magic from there.
Yes, excellent. Well, okay, so 2 questions off of that. First of all, you've been a Magic the Gathering artist.
I have, yes.
How much Magic the Gathering worked its way into both the Exquisite Corpses game and the comic, would you say?
Not really into the comic, but in the game itself, in terms of how I wanted it to be played and how accessible I wanted it to be. I've been a Magic the Gathering player since the 90s, since the game almost began. Okay. And it's been a big part of my life. I absolutely adore the game. I love working with Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, and I love drawing Magic cards. And the biggest problem with me for Magic has always been the really high barrier of entry for people who are my friends that I'd love to teach the game to, that I'd love to play the game to, but they can't run out and buy a deck, and they don't really have the time and energies to learn the game from scratch right now in their lives. So the idea was, like, take some of the things that I love about a game like that, where you're role-playing as these really cool creatures and wizards and sorcerers as Magic, and you're fighting each other, and there's health points, and there's a lot of elements from an RPG or something like a Final Fantasy game. And I wanted to strip that down to the bare bones, add more people that are able to play at one time, and riff off of some of the basics of what that game is. But there's a lot of DNA from a lot of different games in it as well. There's even a little bit of Werewolf, something like that, where it's about a social strategy and deduction and about building alliances and then breaking your alliance. So there's a lot of aspects of all different kinds of games. I kind of wear my influences on my sleeve also because I'm such a lover of art and comics and gaming, and it's good to embrace all those things that made you what you are, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like you are really into the tactical game design of it. Are you working on maybe anything else?
Well, I can't
gaming-wise?
say too much, but
Okay.
We had so much fun developing the Exquisite Corpses game. I'd hired on a group of about 15 play testers to fine-tune and balance the game over the period of about a year and a half. And with a few of those members, we've been working on a few other things, maybe one other game with our friends at Tiny Onion, maybe not, and maybe some other things on our own, but there will be a formal announcement of some of the exciting things that we've been working on soon, but it's all with a bunch of the people that developed the Exquisite Corpses game as well.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. As you're developing the game, how did the story change for you? Like was there anything that you saw from the game that was like, oh, this is core to the world, I'm gonna work it in?
Yeah, it was very interesting. So the way that we wrote Exquisite Corpses, because we've had a big group of writers involved in it, and we would pass the baton from issue to issue, and each writer would come on board and take charge of their favorite killers and write an issue, and then me and James would be doing the intro and the outros of each issue and kind of show running the whole process. So what we did at the very beginning of the process was we got all of the writers together in a room and we did a 3-day writing retreat where we broke the entire story of Exquisite Corpses in those 3 days. We wrote down what happened in every issue. We had every character death planned out, all the big beats. But at the very start of the retreat, we played a bunch of games of the Exquisite Corpses game before the writers even knew what was going to happen, before we'd even started writing. And throughout the process of playing the game, over the course of a night, certain writers already had fallen in love with characters. So we knew going into the writing room that they were going to really want to play with those toys.
Sure.
It was a really fun icebreaker and a really fun way to introduce all of the writers to the characters.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
oh my
it's
God,
kind of been integral in the way that the book has been conceived and developed. It's been gamified in every sense of the word.
Yeah, and to me, it also kind of reminds me of like method acting almost. Like you find what connects you to the character, and that's so cool. Okay, well, I know we're winding down here, but I do just want to touch on very briefly, and again, I know you can't give too many spoilers. You've been teased as being involved with DC's Next Level line. Is there anything you can say about that at the moment? I know you can't say which book it is. Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe what you've enjoyed drawing in it.
I can say that it is referential of some of the other things that I've done over the last few years, tonally speaking. I can say that it's a character that's been around in DC for a very long time, but hasn't really had a hit book in quite a while. I can say that I'm writing and drawing the book, and that Toni Marie Griffin will be coloring the book, and Brittany Holzer, the incredible Brittany, and James Reed are the editors on the book, and I'm having a blast working with them. It's kind of fun to go back to a work for hire book after a few years of doing creator owned and get to play with someone else's toys a little bit, It's a very different kind of experience doing work for hire from creator owned, and there's benefits to both sides of the industry, and I kind of really enjoy going back and forth because it's really refreshing, and it reinvigorates your love of each side of the coin, right? So what else can I say about my Next Level book? It's going to be very scary, and we're pushing the boundaries of, I think, what a core DC book will look like and can do in really exciting ways. It's not going to be your typical DC superhero book. I will tell you that. We're really taking some swings with it, and DC's been pretty incredibly supportive of all the things that I want to do and the ideas that I've had for it.
Yeah. Michael, I don't usually get this specific in terms of questions, but I've loved everything in Exquisite Corpses, and could you please just spoil one thing for me in like the next chapter? Something that's, I don't know, some like moment of terror, something like really scary. Could you spoil something, like picture something terrifying?
I'm not really sure I should be talking too much more about it, frankly.
Okay. All right.
Maybe we should cut the interview. It might be best for you if we just move on to another subject.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Hey folks, if you want more interviews just like this one, all you got to do is head to thepopverse.com. We've got a ton of stuff coming up for the final day of C2E2. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Hey, absolutely. Everything okay?
Yeah,